Good morning. How many of you were here last week or seen the service last week? Last week I said I was excited. This week I'm even more excited if that's possible. I'm even more excited because last week we launched this sermon series, the Forgiving Challenge. And in the 28 years I've been here and we've launched sermon series, we've never had a better launch of a new sermon series. There's never been as much excitement as there is surrounding this sermon series. We've given hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these books away. In fact, like I said, if you don't have a book, pick up a book. If you need a book, if you're watching online, you want us to mail you one, go ahead and ask for one. We're starting with day 6 today. Don't worry about day 1 through 5. Start reading day 6 today. We got all those small groups and Bible studies that you saw in the video announcements. I led 6 of them this last week, and I had close to 200 people in Bible study. We've never had that many people in Bible study in a week. That's just outstanding that we had that many people. Number of people who've watched our sermon across the country is just outstanding. And we actually got another new piece today. This is Forgiving Challenge Kids. If you have small kids, there's a QR code here that Trish put together, and you can scan this, and there is a video that goes each week with the subject of the sermon. And so be sure and pick these up. And some of you know it was my birthday this week. I turned 57 this week. And on my birthday, Kenny said that I could tell you that Trish and I are going to be grandparents. I'm old. Remember when you were a kid and you would go out on the playground and the 2 best athletes were the team captains and they would pick teams? How many of you remember that when you were a kid? So I was always the last one picked because I was never a good team member, because when I was little, I really wasn't so little. I was short and fat, and it didn't matter what sport we were playing, basketball or football or soccer, I wasn't the best athlete, so I was always one of the last ones picked. In fact, some of the time, after the team captains had picked the 6 or 8 or 10 best guys, and there was still 7 or 8 of us left, they'd just say, you have to go over there and you have to go over there. I didn't even get picked, right? You're just in the crowd. You just go over there. And I was thinking this last week. I woke up one morning like at 4 o'clock in the morning. I think my mind's broken or something, because I woke up and I thought, what if I got to be the team captain one time? And Pastor Eric was the other team captain. And we were picking church teams. What would be the criteria for who I would pick first? You ever thought about that? If we were picking teams to start a brand new church, what would be the criteria for the first people I would pick? Would you pick someone who has the greatest biblical knowledge? Would you pick someone who's the most regular attender, so you'd know that you'd always have people in church? Would you pick someone who's just excited and they're going to go out and they're going to tell all their friends and neighbors, invite them to this new church? Would you invite somebody who historically has been very generous, because starting a new church is going to cost money and we're going to need resources to do the work that we want to do, that we believe that God is calling us to? Would I pick Jordan to be on my team, or would I pick Trish to be on my team? That idea of standing in the playground and waiting to get picked to be on Pastor Lee's team or Pastor Eric's team, I don't know about you, but the very idea, the very thought of that kind of creates anxiety in me. I never got to be the team captain. Like I said, I was usually the last guy picked. And so to think about standing on that playground again, just hoping that someone would pick me, creates in me anxiety, because at the end of the day, we all want to get picked. At the end of the day, we all want to know that we've earned someone's approval. We all want to know that we're good enough. We want to be a first-round draft pick. But the reality is, when it comes to a church team, most of us really aren't first-round draft picks, are we? In fact, a whole lot of us probably are in that leftover group that says, okay, you have to go with Pastor Lee and you have to go with Pastor Eric. It's a hard thing to realize that we're not the best, we're not the smartest, we're not the most holy, we're not the most devout. There actually was a time when a church team was picked. Jesus did it. Thousands of years ago, Jesus was going to pick Team Jesus. And Team Jesus was going to take his message of love and grace and mercy and kindness and goodness and forgiveness and freedom to the world after he died. And Jesus had a very clear, defined ministry plan. It's recorded for us in the Gospel of Matthew in the 28th chapter, verses 19 and 20. We read these words. Jesus is speaking to his disciples. He says, "Therefore, go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything I have commanded you, and surely I will be with you always to the very end of the age." Jesus was going to pick a team of men whose job it was to take his message out to the world and transform the world with his message of forgiveness. They weren't starting a church, they were tasked with starting the church. And so the people that Jesus picked is crucial, it's important, it's vital that Jesus gets the right guys. So who did Jesus pick? Well, we know for sure he picked 4 fishermen, probably a 5th fisherman. We know he picked a tax collector that would be despised by every Jew that knew that Matthew was a tax collector. We knew that he picked a guy by the name of Simon the Zealot. The fact that he was a zealot mean that he didn't just dislike Rome, he hated Rome. And would act in ways and say things that would get him in trouble because the Romans were still in charge. There were 2 sets of brothers. There was a guy who would doubt by the name of Thomas, and there was a guy who would betray by the name of Judas. By all accounts, Jesus had a terrible draft day. He didn't seemingly get the best and the brightest and the smartest. He picked common, ordinary, blue-collar kind of guys. In fact, this week in our readings, Pastor Zender is going to suggest that there was actually a Greek word that described the kind of guys that Jesus picked. And that Greek word, loosely translated, means just men or people of the earth, people of the ground, just average guys. They weren't educated. They weren't schooled. They weren't from privileged positions. They weren't wealthy. They weren't even always, according to this word, that concerned about Old Testament Jewish laws. They kind of played fast and loose with the religious rules. And the Bible suggests to us that that's exactly who Jesus picked. In fact, some of these men, Peter and John, are arrested and in the book of Acts, and they're before the religious leaders. And the religious leaders say this: when they, that's the religious leaders, saw the courage of Peter and John and realized that they were unschooled, ordinary men. I don't know why these guys are so bold. They're unschooled, ordinary guys. And yet, these unschooled, ordinary men become great leaders. All of them are martyred for their faith, and one of them, Peter, earns the name Petros, or rock, from Jesus. And we're gonna spend the rest of this sermon series focusing on Simon Peter, the rock. But before we do, there's something very important I want you to know. Jesus has picked you to be on Team Jesus. Jesus has picked you, and I believe that reality has the ability to begin to set us free. The fact that the creator of the universe, out of everyone he could pick, picked you to be on his team. And the reason I believe that is so freeing is because I don't think any of us in this room are so removed from standing on the playground waiting to get picked. I I don't know who the imaginary team captains are in your life, but here's what I believe. All of us have people that we perceive as team captains. People that we're trying to win their approval, people that we want them to show us kindness, people we want to show us their love, people we want to know that we've earned their approval, people that we want to know that tell us that we're good enough. Who is your team captain? Maybe for some of you it's your dad. And you would love to hear your dad say, I approve of you. You're good enough. I've said this before. My dad's been dead for nearly 25 years. I don't ever remember my dad telling me once that he loved me. One of the last times that I visited my dad, he was laying on a hospital bed getting ready to go to surgery, and I was on my way to pastor's conference. I stopped in Columbus to see him, and he and Mom, and I said a prayer for him, and when I got done saying a prayer and I said amen, Dad kept holding on my hands, and from his hospital bed he looked up at me and he says, you know, your mom and I are proud of you. That's the closest he got to saying he loved me. Maybe for some of you, your team captain is your mom. And you have this idea in your mind of what a mom should be like, and your mom has not shown you that kind of love. Your mom has not shown you that kind of kindness. Your mom has not shown you that kind of compassion, and she's still your team captain. You're hoping sooner than later she will finally start being like the mom you believe a mom should be, and she'll pick you. Maybe for some of you students, it's just the right kid at school. And if that kid would pick me to be their friend, man, that would change my life. That would change my status in the school. Maybe for some of you it's a boss, and you're hoping they notice all your hard work and they pick you for the next raise. Who's your perceived team captain that you're trying to impress, that you're trying to win their favor, get their approval? Folks, can I tell you one thing? There's only one guy who deserves to be a team captain. His name's Jesus. And the reason he gets to be team captain is because he shed his blood on a cross for me and for you and for all of us. And Jesus picks you. And you and you and you and you and you to be on his team. And you don't have to try to impress him. You don't have to win his favor. You don't have to show up early or go home late. He already loves you. And he wants you to be on his team. Just like he wanted Peter to be on his team. Peter was a natural-born leader. Peter was one of those guys who was in that inner circle with Jesus. Peter, James, and John. And those three guys got a front row seat to some things that the other disciples didn't even get a witness. A couple weeks ago, we read the account of the Mount of Transfiguration, and Jesus took with him Peter, James, and John, and they went up on a hill, and Jesus was transfigured before them, and they saw his glory. They realized this is the Son of God. And Peter said, Lord, it's good for us to be here. We're told another time that there was a guy by the name of Jairus whose daughter had died. And Jesus goes to Jairus' house, and he invites with him Peter, James, and John, and they go, and Peter and Jesus raises Jairus' dead daughter back to life. You might remember near the end of Jesus' life, he goes to the garden of Gethsemane to pray, and all the disciples are with him, and they go into the garden, but he takes with him Peter, James, and John, and they go a little bit further, and Jesus asks them, will you stay awake and will you pray? Will you pray for me? Peter, James, and John were the closest, but boy, that Peter, right? He's the guy who in the middle of the storm, when Jesus is walking on the water, and everyone is terrified because they think it's a ghost. And Jesus says, calm down, it's me. And Peter says, if it's you, Lord, tell me to come to you. And Jesus says, come on. And Peter, without hesitation, jumps out of the boat and starts walking on the water. But of all the great moments in Peter's life, of all those heroic things that Peter saw and said and did, nothing matches what happened in Caesarea Philippi. It's kind of a turbulent time in the ministry of Jesus, and Jesus has his disciples, and he asks them a question: who do people say that I am? And this is what we have recorded for us in the Gospel of Matthew in the 26th chapter. Some say you're John the Baptist. Others say Elijah, and still others, Jeremiah, or one of the prophets. But what about you, he asked. Who do you say that I am? And Simon Peter, the rock, Simon Peter answered, you are the Messiah, the Son of the living God. Bing, 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 bing. Absolutely right, Peter. You got it right. I knew there was a reason I called you the rock. You understand who I am. You understand my mission and my ministry. Way to go, Peter. But maybe Peter's most bold statement comes moments before his biggest blunder. It's recorded for us in all of the Gospels. In Matthew chapter 26, though, we're going to read it. And Jesus is with his disciples in the upper room. And he's just told them that he's going to die. And he tells them this. Matthew 26, then Jesus told them, this very night you will all fall away on account of me. For it is written, I will strike the shepherd, and the sheep of the flock will be scattered. But after I have risen, I will go ahead of you into Galilee. Peter replied, even if all fall away on account of you, I never will. Truly, I tell you, Jesus answered, this very night before the rooster crows, you will disown me 3 times. But Peter declared, even if I have to die with you, Lord, even if I have to die with you, I will never disown you. And I like this. The others got it, and all the other disciples said the same thing. Oh, yeah, let's do. Well, I'm sure you know what happens, right? These bold statements by Peter, I'll never leave you, Jesus. I'll never give up on you. Even if I have to die, I will never disown you. Well, they go out into the garden and they pray, and Jesus is arrested, and guess what happens? Everyone scatters into the darkness. Jesus' first prophecy has just come true. I'll strike the shepherd and the sheep will scatter. And then we read in Luke these words beginning in chapter 22, verse 54. Then seizing him, they led Jesus away and took him into the house of the high priest, and Peter followed at a distance. Number one, Jesus hasn't called us to follow him at a distance, has he? Now, Jesus said what to Peter when he called him? Come and follow me. Not kind of stand back in the shadows, not follow from distance, follow from somewhere where it's safe. No, come follow me, Peter. But Peter is following at a distance. Let's keep reading. And when some there kindled a fire in the middle of the courtyard and had sat down together, Peter sat down with them. A servant girl saw him and seated there in the firelight. She looked closely at him and said, this man was with him. But he denied it. Woman, I don't know him, Peter said. A little later, someone else saw him and said, you also are one of them. Man, I am not, Peter replied. About an hour later, another asserted, certainly this fellow was with him, for he is a Galilean. Peter replied, man, I don't know what you're talking about. Just as he was speaking, the rooster crowed. The Lord turned and looked straight at Peter. Then Peter remembered the word of the Lord that he had spoken to him. Even if everyone has to go, Lord, I won't. Even if I have to die, Jesus, I won't betray you. And now 3 times before the rooster has crowed twice, Peter has said, I don't know him. The 3 statements were these: woman, I don't know him. Man, I am not. Man, I don't know what you're talking about. And if that weren't enough, the same eyes that looked Peter eyeball to eyeball when he was fishing and said, "Come follow me." At the very moment that Peter is saying, "I don't know the man," look straight into the same eyes of Peter. As Peter is saying, "I don't know him," to the same guy who said, "I want you to be on my team." Peter saying, I'm not on his team. And then Peter went outside and he wept bitterly. You ever wonder why Peter did that? Why did Peter crumble? Why did the rock become dust so easily? Well, simply put, Peter's a sinner, and that's what sinners do. Sinners sin. Sin, by definition, simply means to miss the mark, to miss the bullseye that Jesus has set up for us. And all of us miss the bullseye hundreds and hundreds of thousands of times a day. In fact, by nature, by definition, we miss the bullseye just by who we are. But not only do we miss the standards that Jesus has for us, if I'm honest with myself, we miss the standards we have for ourselves, don't we? I think about my life all the time, all the things that God has done for me, all the love He's shown me, all the grace He's shown me, all the opportunities He gives me, and I wonder, what's wrong with me? If God's been so good to me, why can't I be the person I want to be? Why can't I be more kind? Why can't I be more loving? Why can't I be more patient? Why can't I be a better husband or a better father or a better pastor? Have you ever felt that way? Have you ever felt that way about yourself? Why can't I do better? Of course you have. It's part of staying in the jail cell, even the door is open. Pastor Zender, in the book this week, is going to make this statement. The admission price for freedom begins with the admission of sins. The admission price for freedom begins with the admission of your sins. So let me start. Good morning, my name is Pastor Lee, and I'm a sinner. I'm a sinner in lots and lots of ways, but I'm a very prideful person. Typically on Monday mornings, the very first thing I do is I come in and I log on to our Facebook account. I log on to our YouTube account, and I look to see how many people have watched our posts, how many people have watched our sermons. And I wish I could say I was most interested in seeing how many people watched the sermons, because that's how many people got to hear the gospel of Jesus Christ, and that's true. But I also want to see how many people got to hear my sermon, because I thought it was pretty good. And not only am I prideful, but when I married Trish, God asked me to love her the way that He loves me. And I'm not very patient. I don't always listen to her. Right? When she answers questions, she paints a big picture, and I'm just kind of a pointer kind of guy. No, this is a yes or no answer. I don't need a picture. Yes or no. And I know how she's going to answer, but I'm not patient enough to let her answer. And I've not been a great pastor to you. I've not been a great dad to my boys. I'm not going to be the perfect grandpa either. The admission price for freedom begins with the admission of your sins. My name's Pastor Lee, and I'm a sinner. I'm going to invite all of you. Would you stand up right now? Because we're gonna all do that, right? We're gonna fill this statement. You're gonna say my name is, and don't say Pastor Lee. I agree, Pastor Lee's a sinner. That's not the answer. We're gonna say this together, right? We're gonna say my name is, just your first name, I am a sinner. Ready? My name is Lee, and I am a sinner. You guys said that like you're in fourth grade and your mom told you to say that. Let's say it like we really mean it, like we're sorry for the sins that we've committed, for denying Jesus, denying that we want to be on His team. My name is Lee, and I am a sinner. One more time. My name is Lee, and I am a sinner. And God's grace is greater than your sin. And Jesus picks you. Knowing all there is to know about you, Jesus picks you to be on Team Jesus. Amen? Amen. Now may the peace of God, which transcends all human understanding, guard your hearts and minds in true faith to life everlasting. Amen. We'll see you all next week.